All right, guys, today we are live from the Tap Studio. It is the Fitness on Tap podcast where laziness is loathed, tenacity is king, and pursuing excellence has filled the hearts of former couch potatoes. I'm Tom Petkovich, and we'll be joined with Stacy, who will be hosting today's podcast and interviewing me on why we in our gym here at Tap Fitness Nutrition are so focused on functional fitness, and that being the core of our programming and why we do the certain movements that we do within our program and our classes and what we do for all of our clients and members here at Tap Fitness Nutrition. We also kind of uncover and unpack a little bit about CrossFit. Because CrossFit is functional fitness, we kind of discuss that as well because I do get asked many times, is this a CrossFit? And so I want to also just unpack that a little bit as well. So we discuss that a little bit more in detail as well and kind of go into the whole paradigm behind CrossFit and some of the issues that some people have with that. But look forward to all those things in the future video that we'll cover and unpack for you today, guys.
We are here to love others first, above ourselves. We find joy in honing and sharpening ourselves in all aspects of life. Our nutrition, fitness, mindset, and habits. In order to show with actions, not just words, our utmost respect, love, and devotion. We are the blade, the tool used to help others without fail.
What is functional fitness? What's the functional movement?
Yeah, so the way that I word it and tell people is basically like, how does what we do here transfer to everyday life, and how does what we do in the gym make you better for everyday life? So the way that I define functional to most layman's people is how are like the movements that we're doing and incorporating, or the style of workouts that we do, how are they transitioning to what you're going to do in everyday life and to make you better, to make the things tomorrow easier, by doing the harder stuff today, if that makes sense. Yeah. So basically just in essence saying, hey, how can what we do here make you better at being a better parent, being a better husband, a better like at your occupation, I don't know, like whether you maybe like concrete, you maybe have a bad back, like making you more functional for just being able to do anything at any time, like we just talked about.
Yeah.
Does that explain it pretty good?
I think so.
Yeah.
Why do we do it?
Well, I mean, just kind of what I just said is like the reason I do it is to be the best possible dad that I possibly can, husband, and then also gym owner, role model, kind of all those things. Those are kind of my whys, and I feel like a lot of people have those whys and they want that too. But a lot of people, it tends to be more superficial, and that's why when people come in and the very first time that I meet with them, I call it peeling the onion and getting to like the core of their onion of like what is really truthfully the why and why you do this. And the people that we really search for in our community is just like I said, the people that want to like be fit and kick butt into their 90s and be able to do everything still at 90 years old and not rely on somebody to like wipe their butt and, you know, like live in a nursing home and
Be able to get off the floor when you're sitting there with your grandkids.
Exactly. Like I have a 74-year-old that I train that she still takes care of her grandkids, does all of her own lawn work, and like, I mean, that's super like motivating for me to see that. But at the same time, like I do not want to mow lawns when I'm that old. Like I want to hand that crap off. Like somebody else can do that just because I hate doing that stuff. But I still want to be able to do anything at any time, at any moment, and not lose those capabilities that I have today, you know, and still be healthy and fit and really enjoy the time that I have with those people. Like, for example, we just went on a trip, and my mom wasn't able to do a lot of stuff on the trip because she has so many aches and pains and difficulties with her lower back and whatever else. And my goal is to not ever let those things completely stop me, derail me, and that's where the fitness realm here is so different than like, actually doing something that's elite, high level. The goal of the things that we do here and the functionality of this is to make you better at everything. And that's maybe another way to say functional fitness, is that the goal is to never hurt you. Whereas with most fitness and most young people, they're going to get hurt because they're typically trying to do something high level, something at a like elite status. And let's be frank, if you're going to do something at an elite status, you're going to get hurt if you're trying to achieve something great. Whereas for us, we're just trying to live and kick butt into our 90s, and you don't need to be hurt in order to do that. The goal is to not hurt you in this stuff. Yeah. So, yeah.
So what are some examples of like functional movements and I guess non-functional movements?
Yeah, so I would primarily go to kind of the power lifts, which would be like the deadlift, the squat, and not exactly the bench press. Shoulder press, things like that are very functional. The bench press, however, even though it is a power lift, is extremely not functional. So with that, and just because how many times do you put your back against a wall and push something off of you? I mean, never. Okay, so that would be a definition of like what is functional and what isn't functional. Like, I mean, you never put your back against something and push something. So something like what we used to do in like football was, I think they're called the hammer strength machines, where you would basically do like a double arm kind of push and press, and you'd load weights on the side. That's super functional because you're gonna apply that to like football. Like if you ever have to push somebody off of you in a fight, it's gonna be transition well into that stuff, and it's gonna use your entire body. Whereas a bench press, unless you do it in a certain way, you don't really use your entire body. You're just separating your upper body, and most people don't do the bench press correctly or the way that you should for a power lift. So that would be one example. Another example, like I said, would be like deadlifts, squats, cleans, jerks, snatches, like those type of things do transfer over really well to everyday life. Do you do them very often? Absolutely not. But they're a good skill to have, and I'll give you two examples. One is when Kaylee and I went to Colorado. We took we had a thing that went on the top of our car that we put all of our stuff into, and we didn't want to leave it on the car because we didn't want people to just zip it open and jack all of our stuff. So we literally took it off the car, carried it into the hotel every single night. And we would load it in the hotel, and then we'd carry it out, and then we'd have to lift it up and load it on back onto the vehicle. And Kaylee would not have been able to do that if she hadn't have done some CrossFit and learned how to clean and jerk and basically be able to do that on her own.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have been able to get it up there either, so we would have had to literally take everything out again, load it back up, load everything, and it would have taken an extra hour. So that's one example, but I did have one time, we did the Big Red Challenge last year, and a client of mine was trying to bicep curl, I think it was 40 pounds maybe, but they were sandbags, and so it's kind of like an odd weight. So 40 pounds she could probably curl, but she could not lift this, one, because we're running miles, we're doing other obstacles, there's 25 obstacles, and so she's tired, and she tries to bicep curl this thing, not using her legs at all, and she has to get over this hurdle to get her body then over as well, and she couldn't do it. And I looked at her and I was like, hey Jen, just clean it to your shoulders and then push press it over. And she was like, oh, and literally think, easiest thing in the world. But it's just putting those things that we practice in things here into everyday life, or just the challenges that you put yourself into.
Yeah.
So non-functional things, sit-ups, okay, you technically don't ever need to do them, and they're bad for you. I'm trying to think of anything else. I actually didn't think this, but bicep curls are actually very functional. The reason, because I didn't realize this until I became a parent.
Yeah.
You don't clean your children. You bicep curl your children. And I do it all the time now.
Yeah.
And I was like, bicep curls are actually functional, because I have to pick my baby up and curl him to my body, and that's a very primal movement, so bicep curls back in.
Yeah, gosh, that makes me think of so much, because I have 3 kids. They're 2, 4, and 10 right now. They're all about to have birthdays, but they love when I throw them up in the air. So it's like a thruster. You pick them up from the ground in a squat position and throw them up in the air, and it's again, take turns. And
it's crazy how they want you to just keep going.
Yes. Their energy never stops.
Again.
And carrying groceries in. Trying to get as many groceries inside the house in as few trips as possible.
Yes. Yep.
And right now I'm helping a family pack because they're getting ready to move on Monday. And they have a set of tires up in their garage. So I was pulling those down to take pictures and then having to throw those back up. And then they're empty. They don't have rims on them or anything.
I was going to say, this sounds like a legit workout. Okay, go on.
And then packing up their garage, throwing everything in boxes, and then putting the boxes back up on the shelves. So it was kind of a, clean press kind of thing.
Yeah.
Also to get those up there. So.
Yeah, if you do all the stuff in your house, like the amount of clean and jerks and presses and odd object things you do is just crazy.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that you were well equipped for all of that.
Because of this.
Yeah, and because of everything that you do, and just remember my training. So many people, I think, tend to also, I don't know how to put it, they tend to not, think and apply this stuff to everyday life too. So that's why I have to remind people, hey, a deadlift, the name might sound really, intimidating, but if I call it ground to hips, and hey, this is how you're going to pick up weight through everyday life, it's a lot less intimidating.
Right.
It's they're just fancy names for just functional movements.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So functional movement is also used a lot in CrossFit.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of talked about functional movement, but what's CrossFit?
So the reason I wanted to go through this today is because a lot of people, when they do come in, they see our facility, they ask us, I get the question all the time, is this CrossFit? So the first thing that I want to do is talk about the CrossFit Games and what a CrossFit affiliate is. So what is a CrossFit affiliate gym, and then what is the CrossFit Games? Because they are two separate entities and they are actually two separate companies. So with that, a lot of people view CrossFit as what the games are and what they see on television, ESPN, and oh my goodness, I'm going to do that high level sport. Absolutely not. Just like I worded before, and we actually do a lot of CrossFit like stuff here. I like to tell people and ask people first, do you know what CrossFit is? So that's always my first question, and typically the answer is I don't know, I think maybe, but usually the answer is no. And usually they're asking that question because they're kind of afraid or intimidated to doing CrossFit. And with that, I just basically say, hey, the definition is constantly varied, functional movement at a high intensity. And really those are the three things that are the biggest portion to that. And yes, we constantly vary things, but we do keep primary movements. Just like I talked about, we are going to squat, we are going to deadlift, we're going to do things that are functional towards your everyday, and we will change through things so that there's cross transfer between movements, but it will always be functional, and it'll always be something that's constantly varied. And then lastly, we do high intensity, because guess what? High intensity equals quick results and good results and something that you're going to keep well into your 90s. So ideally, we push ourselves hard so that we push ourselves hard here and we don't break down doing other daily habits. Because who has done an hour and a half of work at home in the yard and they're just wrecked afterwards? It's hey, the goal is to be able to do those hour and a half, 3 hour or full day labor intensive days of whatever you were doing that day, mm-hmm. and not hurt yourself.
Right.
Because those days just randomly come up, or every now and then you're hey, I want to get that to-do list done, and you try to knock it out, and I don't know anybody that I know that doesn't try to get it done that day. Who doesn't want to check it off their list?
Right.
So you typically, it's I'm going to get this freaking done. And a lot of people hurt themselves doing it because it's people doing flag football on the weekend and now working out during the week, and then they always injure themselves.
Sure.
So anyways, yeah, so.
So I think a lot of people get intimidated by CrossFit because they see the games,
Mm-hmm.
And they think they have to be this superstar athlete, super strong, super fit, and they're like, I have to get in shape before I can start working out at a gym like this. I've heard that so much.
Oh gosh, that just, it's always one thing that I'm like, really? Like, okay. Yeah, so I'm glad that you asked that. But yeah, I would say it's kind of like saying, hey, I want to lose 100 pounds before I go see the doctor. I want to get healthy before I see them. You go to the doctor because you're unhealthy and you need to get back to being healthy. Same thing applies with this stuff. Is I have never, I repeat, never in my tenureship of over 10 years of doing this had a client come to me and had a 21 on their functional movement screen, which means they were perfect. I have never had a person come to me and they've known how to do every single movement. I've never had a person come to me, they know how to completely program design. Never. So that's my way of saying, like, there is no good starting point, and the only reason that you wouldn't start today is because you're making excuses.
Sure.
You're just scared, you're intimidated, which I totally get, and I totally understand. But you need to get over those fears and those intimidations and just do it and get going, because if you keep waiting, I don't know if you know who Zig Ziglar is. He's dead and gone, and I love a lot of his stuff, but he has what's called, like, where people are always like, well, I'll get around to it. And he said, well, here's your round to it. It's time to get going. So he'll literally, he'll make round to it's and provide them to people where they're like, well, I'll get around to it. And it's like, here's your round to it. Let's get going.
Sure.
There's no, like the starting Monday thing never works. It needs to be now. It needs to be today. And that's why when people come in and they meet with me and then they can't meet for a week to a week and a half later, I'm kind of like, I don't think this person's going to go. And then literally, I would say 90% of the time, if it's not within 2 days of my first meeting that they're going to come back, they're probably not going to continue, or they're not a super highly motivated person to actually making this happen.
Yeah.
Because you got to be able to make it happen today. You can't make it happen a week from now or a month from now, because then you're just going to continue to let other things that aren't as high of an actual priority to this stuff will continue to get in the way.
Yeah. So something that I learned personally through doing CrossFit over the last few years, and then taking, I did take 2 years off after having babies and stuff. But I talk to friends who are like, I can't do CrossFit. I can't do a pull-up. I can't either. But I can.
Did you used to be able to do a pull-up?
I used to be able to do strict pull-ups.
Yeah. It was before the last two, though?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Because I know we did a nutrition challenge a long time ago, and I think that was when you got really in shape.
Yep.
And post Stella.
Really good shape. This was after my first kid. Did a nutrition challenge for 3 months. Lost a little bit of weight, but more than that was, I think, gained more muscle and endurance, and it was crazy how much nutrition can change. But even I think I lost maybe 10 pounds. But that 10 pounds, I was able to do pull-ups. And
I always tell people it is amazing what 5 pounds does. So that's why when people have 40 to lose, I'm like, you are going to be so freaking happy when you get there, because you are going to the workouts, the things you can do is going to be insane.
Yeah, it was amazing. And I think I was this close to being able to do a muscle up.
Yeah.
And then during that nutrition challenge, I got pregnant again. And then
you're so fit. You made a new baby. So fit, we made a baby.
I've told myself I will never do strict paleo challenges again, because every time I've done one, I've gotten pregnant. Every time.
Something in the water. Something in the nutrition. That's ridiculous. One thing that I didn't go into depth about that I want to go back to is talking about the difference between affiliates and the CrossFit Games. The other thing that I talk about with people that are asking if this is CrossFit and are afraid of CrossFit, no, we don't just do CrossFit here. We incorporate a lot of my background and history, which would be functional movement screens and the functional movement system. which is a great cook and is somebody that I would highly recommend to look into. And I love a lot of his stuff, along with my NASM certifications, my gymnastics certifications, my Olympic lifting certifications, and my Russian kettle. So I kind of use all of those systems to formulate what I feel is the best for each individual, but also as just a community. The other thing is a CrossFit affiliate is more about a community and more about an individual rather than it being as much focused on the individual and how high level can they go. It is, we're trying to like customize it to each person, but again, the goal is to not hurt people in the affiliate, and the goal in the CrossFit Games is to create the most and highest elite level athlete possible. So that's where I want to make the distinction is the goal of a gym is to not hurt a person and make them better. The goal of a sport or the CrossFit Games is to just create the best freaking athlete possible, and it doesn't matter how we get there. And pain and gain, even injuries are a high likelihood. So is there something else that you have any questions on with that? Did I miss anything?
I can't think of anything.
Yeah, okay.
If you guys have questions, post them below. We'd love to get more podcast ideas based off of your questions. So drop them below. And otherwise, I think
good spot to
wrap
end.
it up for today.
Cool. Thanks a lot, guys. Tune in for the next one. One more thing that I wanted to add to this video that I don't think that we covered that I wanted to make sure that you guys knew is that there's a reason that we did not affiliate with CrossFit. And there's a reason why we made the choice not to affiliate. The number one choice was simply just the cost. I think it's up to like $3,000 now to just be an affiliate and call yourself an affiliate. And CrossFit doesn't really do anything for you. They don't even provide you with insurance. All they really do is give you the name and the brand. And honestly, when I first started my gym, I didn't want to be branded as a CrossFit because of the stigma and the dogma that goes along with the CrossFit as a brand. Since then, that's kind of changed a little bit. I have appreciated Greg Glassman stepping down and their new ownership with CrossFit, and I'm super excited where that goes. But I wanted to take the approach with fitness of how can I get any person at any level to starting into a gym, and how can I make sure that they are doing this for the right reasons and not just to be part of a CrossFit. I do want clients that want to do CrossFit, that want to do functional movement, because CrossFit is functional, it's high intensity, and it's constantly varied. That is what we do here. So in a nutshell, we do CrossFit, but I incorporate so much customization and tailoring workouts for so many different people that it's really more of a one-on-one aspect within the sessions that people get within what they do here, but then also the online coaching that we do in more of a one-on-one and group aspect with that as well. So the thing that I wanted to just make sure that I talked about that I don't think that we covered within the video was just more or less talking about how I don't want to be affiliated with the brand of CrossFit because of the stigma or the like what most people think of when they think of CrossFit. Some people think that, I'm just going to get injured. It's too high intensity. It's too challenging for me. There's no way I can ever do it. And if I can have a 74-year-old client who has just had wrist surgery and broken a wrist do stuff like this, you can do it. If I have a person that's a 10-year-old who's never exercised a day in their life but has played some sports and done other things, or has never done anything, I've had people of any way, shape, or form, and even people that are hundreds of pounds overweight do this stuff. Yes, it's going to be challenging. Yes, it's going to be hard. But anything worthwhile of doing is worth doing so that you can reap those benefits and the rewards in the long term and get long-term satisfaction. It's the instant gratification and those things that we need to get rid of, because those things are not going to give you the pleasure or the things or the joy that you're really looking for out of this life. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'm sad that I didn't get or remember to do this in the actual podcast session with Stacy, but I wanted to make sure that you guys know that originally I didn't want to be affiliated with CrossFit so that we can attract more people who don't necessarily want to do this just for CrossFit. And I also didn't want to be affiliated with a brand that scares people. I want as many people to be motivated to do this as possible, mainly because my expertise, my background, my history, for pretty much everyone negates that. The thing that I do find, the thing that puts most people at risk for injury in here is lack of communication. People tend to belittle how they feel. They tend to not communicate when they have weird aches and pains. And sometimes their ego gets in the way as well of, no, I can handle this. No, I can do it. Oh, it's nothing. The best thing that I see overall is for my athletes, my clients, my members to talk to me about anything that's happening. And most people know the difference between pain and discomfort and a burn in a workout, or like the things that we should push through. A pain in the shoulder, a pain in the knee, a pain in the ankle, and like kind of weird pains. Those are definitely things that I need my clients or my members or my athletes to share with me. Whereas if it's something like, oh, my quads are burning, or oh, like I can't breathe, or like I'm being challenged in this workout, those are things like, yeah, like push through it, let's work hard, let's go. But when it comes to like weird aches and pains, and I see my clients like rubbing their shoulder or like feeling their back, those are always things that are like a red flag for me to talk to that client to make sure that they're not putting themselves at more risk for injury. So hopefully you guys like this video. I know this is a new format and content, and it's not perfect, but it's what we're going to do right now so that we can get as much content out to you guys as frequently as possible, and hopefully long term you guys really enjoy this stuff. So without that, I hope you guys have a great day. Keep getting after it, and take care.